allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being live streamed by Chelmsford Telemedia and is posted at Chelmsford.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
I have no idea.
With liberty and justice for all.
I'm not on. Oh.
It is not a.
I feel like we've done it before.
How did we sound?
It's not even Cinco de Mayo.
No. I muted that to make sure we're still on.
How did we sound? I mean,
That's pretty good, huh?
that was pretty good. I'm like, I'm not on. Loud.
Let's wait, because she's gonna make sure that the sound is still on Chelmsford Telemedia.
It's nice because I'm over the
Still look at me.
This room. I'm sorry.
Whatever,
She's looking at me.
you can't make it up, I don't know what to tell you.
What's this with this gavel too?
I know, well, Dennis used to get very angry, look at all those,
No, that's from Mr. Thomas.
okay.
I've seen him bang that gavel a few times. Al?
Oh, yeah. Dennis, can you let Linda, when she comes in, tries to come in
She
and,
has,
oh, she's got it, okay.
all right, we're good.
Just that little glitch, that's all.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Take two. This meeting is being live streamed by Chelmsford Telemedia and posted to the Chelmsford Public Schools website for interested community members to access and watch. In-person public participation will be taking place tonight in accordance with the Chelmsford School Committee Public Participation Guidelines. Anyone speaking tonight during the public input portion of the meeting has notified the superintendent's office of their desire to speak and has been provided with these guidelines. Upon request, written comments received no later than 12 p.m. on the day of this meeting will also be read and made part of the record of the meeting during the second public comment session. I don't see anybody else here in terms of press, so moving right along. So welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford Public School Committee. As we're getting started tonight, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Select Board for their vote last night to allow us to submit our statement of interest to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. I'd also like to thank the members of the town meeting for approving our budget and district capital projects at last night's town meeting. And I'd also like to recognize the Chelmsford High School band, members of the band that were there to perform prior to the meeting and also perform the national anthem. So thank you very much to everyone. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our meeting on April 12th, 2022. Is anybody, I'll take a motion.
I move to accept the minutes of the regular school committee meeting on April 12th, 2022. Second.
Great. Does anybody have any corrections? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, we're going to hear from our Chelmsford High School student representatives.
Hello, everyone. So it's almost May, and we're approaching the end of the school year. As Sarah just said to me earlier, only 18 days left for seniors, so that's great. And the next 2 weeks are AP testing for students, and these will be held in the Learning Commons. And we also have some shout outs to a few different clubs. Before April break, Melting Pot held an international lunch for the teachers, which was a huge success. And students brought in food from different cultures, and many different students performed at the event, including the a cappella groups and cultural dances and the CHS Irish Step team. And also during April vacation, the Eco Club held a town-wide trash cleanup in honor of Earth Day. So great job to both of those groups. Also, tickets are going on sale for senior activities coming up, including prom, the banquet, and barbecue. So those will be sold at school. And also, the music department is preparing for upcoming concerts. The jazz band will be performing at the PAC next Wednesday on May 4th. And the Pops concert featuring band, chorus, and orchestra will be on May 10th.
Also, on Thursday, CHS students will have the opportunity to go see mental health advocate Ivy Watts in the Performing Arts Center during the school day, and she'll be promoting mental health empowerment to students. Huge congratulations to Ganesh Janke and Rishi Ajmera. They got the chance to perform at the DECA International Career Development Conference all the way down in Georgia. Ganesh is performing in the category of Startup Business Plan, where he presents his own fictional startup to a panel of judges. And then Rishi is performing in the category of Entrepreneurship Series, where he'll take an exam to test his knowledge. And we're really excited to hear how they do. And finally, the Leadership in Motion Everywhere Club, or LIME, is preparing for the return of the 24-hour relay on May 21st and 22nd. All proceeds from the event will go to charity, and there's going to be lots of food and games and other fun things, and signups for that end on May 6th.
Are they doing that on the plateau?
Yes, I believe so.
All right, great. Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask our student reps? All right, well, thank you, Katrina and Sarah. By the way, when is your last meeting with us?
I believe it's the one on May 17th.
May 17th, okay. Yep. All right, great. All right, moving on to good news. Does anybody have any good news they would like to share? Dr. Hirsch?
Okay, so Chelmsford has once again been designated as a best community for music education by the NAM Foundation. Pretty sure this is our 10th year in a row. The 8th and 11th grade students will be embarking on their first action research project in the next coming weeks. Using our capital skills grant, a new greenhouse has been assembled at CHS with 15 wireless trail cameras that will be placed around McCarthy and in Chelmsford High School and Parker. Hopefully we don't see too many things. I'll just wildlife. I don't need any more creepy crawlies coming near me. So the kids are excited about that piece. And then today, actually, our civics classes were actually back in person touring the State House. So they had a field trip today, and we have some pictures and things that we'll be sharing in the newsletter this week. That's it for good news.
Okay, anybody else?
Just piggyback on what Donna said, town meeting, another item that was approved last night is the tennis courts over at the high school to refurbish those. I believe the basketball courts as well.
The whole complex that had the tennis courts, the basketball, and the street hockey.
Playground too. Don't forget about the playground center.
Center playground.
That's a big deal.
as well, yeah.
Big deal, yep.
So a lot of support from the town for
Yeah.
what's going on at the school, so. yeah.
Great. Anybody else? All right. The next item on our agenda is public comment, and I don't believe that we have any public comment tonight. Nobody registered?
No one registered to speak.
Okay. All right. Next, new business. The first thing on our agenda is the land acknowledgement proclamation. Did we take care of that?
Yeah, so this is a land proclamation that the town's diversity committee had worked with the select board to generate. They emailed us a copy of it and indicated it would be nice to read that at larger meetings or meetings once in a while. So I did attach it for you for one of the members to read.
I actually have the proclamation here for us.
Okay. I have the language here, but I'll read the proclamation. It's more official. Oh, this is the whole proclamation. This is the whereas proclamation.
Correct. I do also want to say before you start that the Chelmsford Public Library also partnered with the DEI committee to make sure that everything was in order and to be able to identify the supporting resources that went along with this proclamation.
So just start from the top? All right. Town of Chelmsford Proclamation, Land Acknowledgement. Whereas the Town of Chelmsford acknowledges that its land upon which the government buildings, town common, and libraries are situated is traditional and ancestral territory of many diverse indigenous nations, and we strive to honor these peoples. And whereas the Town of Chelmsford acknowledges the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this land, now known as Chelmsford, and we honor the indigenous people still connected to this land on which we live, work, and learned. And whereas this area compromises in part the homelands of the Pawtucket, Pennacook, Abenaki, and their close neighbors, the Massachusetts and Nipmuc peoples. And whereas the Town of Chelmsford extends our deep respect to the citizens of these nations who live here and elsewhere today, and their ancestors who have lived here for generations. Therefore, be it resolved, the Town of Chelmsford formally recognizes expresses appreciation for and honors the indigenous peoples who have an historic relationship with the lands of the town, and further, the Chelmsford Select Board respectfully recommends positive action on this proclamation by residents, local businesses, educators, community, and faith-based organizations, town employees, town boards, and town committees. Signed 14th day of March 2022.
Great, thank you very much. All right. All right, all set?
go?
Yes, go ahead.
Second item on the agenda this evening is the 2022-23 school committee calendar. So this, we typically annually vote on, and will get posted up to the website, and we'll be able to kind of set up our meeting packets for the year. We pretty much follow the consistent schedule of meeting the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 6. You will note in July, we only meet on the second meeting of the month, on the third Tuesday in July. We don't meet on right after the 4th. And then in the February and the April meetings, we bump that third meeting to right after the school vacation week, just so our meetings don't fall on school vacation week. But other than that, we've maintained a normal schedule. So I would recommend the school committee approve that so that we can get it posted to the website and also notify Chelmsford Telemedia so that they can schedule and provide coverage for our meetings.
So one thing that, and I don't think it would belong in this calendar, but we were considering a working session over the summer, so for people just to keep that in mind after we get the strategic plan, in order to be able to put together our goals for next year.
Yeah, I mean, the school committee at any time can add meetings to this. This is just our more general business schedule, just so that we can kind of plan our regular agendas. But you can have working sessions and additional sessions if you need to.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the July 2022 through June 2023 Chelmsford Public Schools School Committee meeting schedule as written.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, great.
Okay. Next item up on the agenda tonight, the third one, is just the school committee liaison assignments. So when I was speaking with the chair, we decided to put that in the packet tonight to just kind of refresh everyone's memory on who's assigned to which groupings. And we do not have to act on this tonight, but if you wanted to take a look at the groups that you're assigned to represent and get back to the chair over the next week or so, we can make any modifications we need to, any adds, or if we want to do any trade-offs or whatnot. And then you can give me the list of the final assignments, and we'll put that on the next packet, and we can vote to approve and kind of set those up for next year. So this would all be effective like July 1 on, is how we typically do this.
So if people could take a look at this and get back to me. The other thing too is to really take a good look at these liaison assignments and to determine whether or not, going forward that we want to keep them all. There may be some on here that we say, because we're always available, right, to go to any meeting that somebody might request us to attend. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be a liaison to a particular committee. So keep that in mind and get back to me with any thoughts or ideas you have.
Just one thing, Jeff and I did do a switch during the course of the year where I'm doing the CHIPS PTO and Jeff took the boosters because of a conflict.
I have those in your,
Gave up chips. That's crazy. That's tough.
yeah.
That's tough for me to do.
If there are town committees out there that are looking to get on this list and that are not on this list at this time, do you want them to reach out to you?
Sure,
as
just pass the
chair?
information on.
Would
to
that
me.
be okay?
Sure.
All right, great, thank you.
All right, next up.
And if you do that, then we don't take action tonight. We can refine that and put that on for the, either the next meeting or the 17th, because it doesn't kick in until July anyway.
Right.
Okay. Great. The fourth item the fourth item on the agenda this evening is a third quarter financial report, and I'll ask Joanna to provide that for us.
Thank you. In your packet tonight is our regular quarterly set of documents. So my cover memo highlights just some of the variances. And then there's a year-to-date budget report through the end of March with all the account detail, grant and revolving fund summary with all the balances, and then the high school and middle school student activity account balances. So you've heard much of this narrative for a couple quarters now since these variances revealed themselves right away. And it's the favorable variances in labor in our $65 million annual operating budget. The main reason for the variances is teachers being hired a little bit less than Master Step 3, and the approved leaves of absences that are unpaid. So the general classroom teachers, that variance is holding at about 550,000. That number hasn't changed very much. And then the specialist teachers, that variance is about 272,000. The other favorable variance is going to be our special education out-of-district tuitions. And the main reason that is favorable is, one, the tuitions are slightly less than what we had originally thought it would be, normally 5.5 million out the door. We are going to keep our circuit breaker offset at the 2.33 million because we have to. We're at a cap in our circuit breaker fund. We did receive the Valley Collaborative credits, which we did not budget for, and that is 530,000, so that's why we're favorable there. And we did prepay tuitions in fiscal '21 that was prepaid for a few months of fiscal '22 in accordance with Mass General Law, and that was 1.2 million. So the chart at the bottom kind of shows where we thought we would be when we did the fiscal '22 budget and outlook, and overall that category is predicted to be about $1.9 million favorable. Main two reasons, again, are the Valley credit and the prepaying of tuitions. I added the paragraph this time about what we just, the superintendent talked about at the last meeting, setting up the Special Education Reserve Fund, just so it's in the record, and the town meeting did approve that last night. So with that fund being established, the superintendent will come forward with a recommendation before the end of the fiscal year on transferring a portion of this favorable variance into the fund for future unexpected special education tuition costs. And then the last chart is our school choice fund, just to keep that on your radar, and we're funding the one-on-one initiative with those funds. Right now, the balance of that fund is about $2.2 million, and we have a couple more months of revenue to come in, and then we have the offset of the lease payments for those computers, Chromebooks, so we expect the balance at the end of this fiscal year to be about $2.18 million. I'll pause and see if there's any questions on the local operating budget, and then we can move to the revolving funds and student activity accounts.
Does anybody have any questions? Thorough as usual.
Okay. All right. The next chart is the little one page, is kind of in color of the grants, is kind of the top portion of the report. Down in the middle is, the top part is more the DESE grants. The middle part is other grants, private grants. And then down on the bottom is the revolving funds such as school nutrition, ComEd, transportation, student activity. The grants are going well. Everybody's staying on target. We're going to try to wrap up some of the multi-year funds. The 2021 grants are multi-year, so wrap those up by June. We have until September, but it's just better to kind of keep moving with our implementation, get those wrapped up. And I'll pause here, see if you have any specific questions about the grants and revolving funds.
Go ahead. Ask something. Okay. For the CARES Act grant fiscal '22, which is our biggest, it looks like, remaining revenue, of $1,285,000.
Yes.
Okay, when is that through?
Yeah, 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Right. The one that ends first is ESSER 1, and that ends in September of 2022.
Okay,
And then ESSER 2 ends in 2023, and then ESSER 3 ends in 2024.
okay.
Are the ESSER 1 funds being earmarked, since we have to use them by September?
Yes, we have about 80,000 that the superintendent and Dr. Hirsch and actually Bill Silver are working out that final. We want to land right on the penny with that final push for that and get that final piece of implementation and then be done.
Is there any other questions? All right, great. Thank you.
And then the last section of this is the student activity balances. So these are like the clubs and sports and through all their fundraising. The high school balance is $307,000. And I just want to point out on this one, you had brought up last time the question of the class of 2020. We have issued the check. It was actually March 18th, and this report is through February because we balanced to the bank statements, to the Alumni Association, and then that will be used for that class's future class reunions. So when you see this next time, it'll be significantly less. And then the class of 2021 still needs to let us know their plan, if they have a year, if they'd like to do any more class gifts, or if they want this to go all towards reunions. And then the McCarthy Middle School balance, and you can see all their clubs, is 16,000 approximately, and then the Parker is at 36,000 approximately. Any questions on the high school or middle school clubs or sports?
Any questions? No?
Which accounts get audited this year, do we?
High school.
High school.
So I've, they left in March, the auditors, and then we had just a couple little follow-up questions, and I spoke to them about 2 weeks ago, and they're just wrapping up, and they'll send us a draft, not expecting any thing, and then we'll get a chance to respond, and then we'll bring it to the committee.
Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
The fifth item on the agenda this evening is a vote to formally kind of establish our daily rates next year for some special positions that we increased in the budget this past year. As you know, when I did the superintendent's recommended budget back in January, we recommended increasing the day-to-day substitute teacher rate, the long-term substitute teacher rate, the day-to-day substitute nurse rate, and that was all incorporated within the budget document that you reviewed and approved. And then, obviously, last evening, our budget was approved by town meeting. So it was kind of a next step, just to formalize the rate structure for July 1. We have that before you this evening. So Joanna put a little memo together that just lists our current rates, and then you have the rates in the right-hand column of what we're recommending be implemented for next year. And again, this is what was included within the budget book. So we would happy to answer any questions you have, and then ultimately, hopefully, have a recommendation to adopt that new rate structure for next year.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. To reach these rates that you have, these recommendations, what generally did we do?
Oh, like the dollar amounts? We looked at our surrounding communities. So when it comes to, like, say, a day-to-day teacher or even like a day-to-day nurse, we don't really look at our comparable districts because they can be all over the state. And we're really trying to attract a group that's kind of in the greater, Chelmsford area, the Merrimack Valley area. So Candace, our interim director of HR, just solicited what the rates were from these other communities. Peggy Gump, our nursing coordinator, surveyed the different districts to find out what the day-to-day nurse rates were in other communities that abut us. So again, it would be like Upper Ricker's, Tewksbury, Drake, Lowell, Tingsboro, those kind of districts, because that's the pool of people where we're kind of competing with. And we wanted to make sure we were paying at least the same, if not a little bit more, than those particular districts.
And how do we get that information out to the pool of applicants? How will people know that
So
we're?
these jobs, we don't really start pushing until the summertime. Because like our current day-to-day subs and paras and whatnot, they'll maintain under the regular structure. Right after the 4th of July, when we start to kind of push our substitute pool, is when we'll put out flyers, we'll put out, Facebook postings, things along those lines. We'll send a letter through email to all of our current substitutes to just kind of try to re-sign them up for the following year. We'll talk about what the rate structure is going to be. So we'll start pushing that right after the 4th of July. We don't want there to be confusion between this year and next year as well. And we have a very good core group right now, kind of helping us get through the end of the school year. This is going to be a big push to be competitive for the following year.
All right, any other questions? All right, Jeff, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the recommended substitute employee rate increases for fiscal year 2023.
Second.
So this is a roll call vote. All right, Dennis?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 6 this evening. So Donna had alluded to at the beginning of the meeting, we did meet with the select board right prior to town meeting last evening for them to vote to approve the statement of interest for us to submit to the Mass School Building Authority on Friday for the Parker Middle School concept, which we'd previously talked about. So the vote before you this evening is pretty much the same verbiage with just an updated date on there. But what this will basically do is allow us to, by Friday, submit the statement of interest. Again, we're switching from high school to looking at the middle school, and Parker Middle School is what we're terming the priority school that we're going to try to compete for a new school building on. So this basically authorizes me to put all the paperwork in and all the different forms that we have to file by Friday. It is a lengthy vote, but it is at least prepared for you. And we do have to vote, and then it does need to be incorporated verbatim into the minutes for the meeting, because I have to attach those to the packet that we send in on Friday.
All right, Jeff?
Having convened an open meeting on April 26, 2022, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of the town of Chelmsford, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated April 22nd, 2022, for the Parker Middle School located at 75 Graniteville Road, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority categories for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Priority 2, elimination of existing severe overcrowding. Priority 4, prevention of severe overcrowding expected to result from increased enrollments. Priority 5, replacement, renovation, modernization of school facility systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating, and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility. And priority 7, replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide for a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of this application, the awarding of a grant or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the town of Chelmsford to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Well done. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call this one, I know.
As long as it's unanimous, you don't have to.
Yeah. Sure? Okay.
We can.
All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
So what's the process now? It gets submitted and then kind of give us a bit of, in terms of the timing, when could we expect to hear from them?
Sure. Yeah, I had actually put a report together a couple of years back with the whole timeline when we were doing
Yeah.
the high school project. I can very easily update that and put it on the next agenda for you. But in short, so we submit by Friday, and we have to submit our votes and everything along those lines. because this is the first time that we've submitted for Parker. A delegation from the MSBA will likely come out at the end of August, September, sometime towards the end of the summer, early fall, and walk the school, take a look at our, the conditions, how, what we've reported to make sure it's accurate and whatnot. The MSBA had actually done a survey of school facilities, I want to say some 6 or 8 years or so ago at this point. So they have a database that shows, kind of what things were at when they did their initial survey. Obviously, we haven't done significant improvements since, so that'll still be a good baseline document. But they will take a look at the school itself, make sure that everything still aligns with the application. Sometimes it's hard to understand until you visually see, like what we wrote in the application, what they might mean by the school. So they'll take a look at the site, they'll maybe get a sense of that stream that runs underground. It's hard to talk about in the application, but they'll want to physically see that. And then they'll go back and they will take a look at all of the different projects that were submitted by all the different communities, weight them based on priority and need and who kind of met the spec. And then typically, right after the holidays, so I would think like after the 1st of next year, in the January-ish, February timeframe, we would find out if we were going to be invited into what they term the eligibility phase. So that's like the first step into the program. I would love to be invited into the eligibility phase. Sometimes it does take a year or two to get invited into the eligibility phase, even with a project of our scope, and even though we've changed it to a middle school. But that would be the first step. And then once you get invited into eligibility, we would need to, as a community, vote to appropriate some funding to be able to do some of the baseline work on the project. You would have to do a new, a certified like student enrollment projection. You might want to take a look at, again, feeder patterns, things like that. And the MSBA would actually work with us on that. And they would try to then determine, and that process can take anywhere between, off the top of my head, it's like a year to a year and a half. They would want to take a look at like what might be the best solutions for Chelmsford. That's when we would start talking about, would we potentially build one big school? Would we do a smaller, different grade level school? Remember, we talked about the possibility of like a new 4, 5, 6 or a new 6, 7, 8. They would work with us and kind of figure out what we should be looking at that point. And then I forget the name of the next phase. It might be the, it's eligibility. There's another phase you go into at that
Feasibility?
point.
Oh, you did feasibility, right? You already mentioned it.
Feasibility is there somewhere. I'll update the slide for you for the next time. But in short, we apply by Friday, they come out and do a walkthrough, late summer, early fall, and then we hear if we're gonna be invited in to that first phase right after the 1st of next year. So January, February of '23, we should find out if we're gonna be invited in or not.
And when they come, it's only about that building.
Yep, they just want to basically make sure that the application we submitted aligns with what we reported. Correct.
Yeah, because the only thing is, we talked about many things, including,
Yeah, that won't come up until, that's after we actually get invited into that eligibility phase. So that's like that year to year and a half process is when that would kick into play. So that, realistically, that would be more like almost a full year from now before we even kind of started talking about that. And that dialogue can easily take a year to a year and a half. So it is a little bit of a ways out. But I'll give you the whole flow chart that'll show you all the different dates and things.
because I think this is really important for people to realize this, the amount of time. And not just, I know we all do, but when we're talking wider to the community, I think people really are going to have to realize this, because we're gonna have to be making some decisions probably in between about buildings and capacity and so on, that, people can't just think that this is gonna be the solution.
No, I think that's been something we've been saying right along. Even if this on first chance kind of gets in, you're still looking at that 6+ years out before you would see a new building. So we're gonna have to make some adjustments to our current configurations and spaces in the short term. This isn't the solution that we can kind of wait for 6 or 8 years down the line. We have to still be doing those smaller steps along the way.
Right.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions about the process? All right, great, thank you. Next up, our COVID update.
I know you look forward to this every month. Yes, I have a little COVID update for you. And again, we followed a very similar format that we have utilized in previous meetings, just to provide you some baseline data. So from the very onset of the pandemic and our return to school programming, we've kind of followed what's been happening in the town with regard to COVID vaccination rates among our school populations. So this is information that was published as of last Thursday, the 21st, so it's still very fresh data. You can see our students in Chelmsford. Now, again, this is Chelmsford, not necessarily the Chelmsford Public Schools, but any child in Chelmsford between the ages of 5 and 11, about 72% of that population has received at least their first dose of the vaccine, and 65% are fully vaccinated at this point. And our numbers trend upward when we get to our middle school students who are, middle and actually high school, who are 12 to 15. 88% have had a first dose of the vaccine, and 81% overall are fully vaccinated. And then of our high school students, the 16 to 19-year-olds, 94 of them have had, 94% have had their first vaccine, and 88% are fully vaccinated. So those numbers at the high school and what I consider the middle school, those 12 to 19-year-olds, are relatively consistent. We're only moving a percentage point or so every month when I report. We always report the last. But, we're definitely seeing good progress. And we have seen an uptick in the vaccinations with the younger kids, and we expected that because they were eligible a little bit later. But we've, again, had very good, strong vaccinations with regard to the community in general. Taking a look at our school populations, because this is data that we actually have on our own students. At our high school, we have 86% of the school fully vaccinated. So this is the double dose of the vaccine, and this has been proved with the school. Our two middle schools, McCarthy's running at a 74% vaccination rate, Parker slightly behind at a 70%. And then again, not unexpected, our elementary schools are lagging a little bit because of the timing on some of this, but we still have very good vaccination rates. Byam at 69%, Center at 66%, Harrington at 54%, and then South Row at 60%. And these numbers are actually updated as of yesterday, so these are current numbers. Families are still being very cooperative with us and continuing to update information and share it with us, and we appreciate that. They can email it in, or they can send it to the school nurse, and they update this data, and then I use this data to pull our reports every month. Pool testing is still alive and well in the schools. We pool test every week in the buildings. We get a handful of students every week that still add on to this, and even when we get to the COVID kits later on, I get a handful every week that is still adding on, which is good. But we have fairly strong pool participation still, about 1,800 students in our district participating. Obviously, you can see the percentages there at the school. And there's a little bit of inverse here because we obviously had more high school kids vaccinated early on, less took advantage of the pool testing, and it's counter to that at the elementary level. So we had higher pool participation rates there because, again, they weren't eligible for the vaccine at the time. But we got about 1,800 students who are eligible to participate, and you'll see next when we take a look at our participation results. We've been averaging in the 1,200-ish ballpark each week for rates. We have performed pool testing for 26 weeks now, so we've been doing this right through the school year. This is free testing that we're going to be continuing right through the end of the school year. DESE has authorized that, so it will continue. You'll see we did have the uptick we had kind of talked about coming back from the Christmas break after January, but overall it's settled down quite a bit number-wise. We are still identifying, like last week, we had 8 positive cases district-wide. So we are still identifying some positive cases. And these are asymptomatic individuals. So it's good to be able to identify and to help them and remove them from the school so that they're not spreading to others, but also make sure they're getting the care that they need. And again, if you look at our trend, even over the course of this 26 weeks, we're still running 99.5% negativity as far as our testing is concerned. We performed over 30,000 pool tests, which is a huge number. And again, I think it's been very beneficial. It's been very labor intensive and time consuming, but it's been one of the mitigation strategies that I really do believe has kept us in school full time over the course of this year. So well worth it. Most recently, we did implement the at-home test kits. We've got a ton of them, so we give them out to, really to whoever would like to sign up for the program at this point. And we do, we still get individuals signing up each week. But I just gave you the total number of individuals in the district. This is staff and students who have registered. So we've got over 3,000 people testing each week. They test at home in the privacy of their own home. They only let us know if they have a positive case. And this is, again, an initiative that the state is paying for, and they're going to provide right through the end of the school year. So if someone does still want to sign up for at-home testing, they certainly can. They just go on the website, click the little link, fill out some very basic information, and then they're provided a test kit at the end of the week with everyone else in their buildings. And then lastly, we've just maintained our dashboard. I showed you a little bit earlier the weekly pool test result dashboard. This is just a little copy of our regular COVID dashboard, and this is actually last week's data, so that you can see the total number of students and staff by school in the district that tested positive and ended up in quarantine from COVID. This is something in data that Peggy and the nurses use on a daily basis to make sure that we don't have any little clusters or anything developing within schools or classrooms. But I'm feeling very positive with regard to kind of our trend in data. We're not seeing any significant spikes right now, and we're getting into the spring season. So I think we're going to finish out the year strong. All of our initiatives are continuing right through the end of the school year. And then we're awaiting information from DESE with regard to are things going to continue in the fall or not. We don't know yet. But everything, pool testing, test at home kits, our website with the weekly updates are continuing right through the end of the school year. So that is my COVID update. Happy to answer any questions. And we'll provide this information again at the end of May, and then we'll wrap one more up at the end of June before we depart for the summer.
I do have one question on the kits. For the people that signed up, are they picking them up?
For the most part, at the elementary school, they do a very good job, but obviously it's a little bit easier to hand out. Middle school's doing a fairly good job as well. The high school's not doing a great job. So it's not that they're not trying. A lot of the kids at this point, they make them available. You have to either stop by and pick them up, and a lot of the kids aren't doing that. A lot of the students aren't doing that. It's available to them. No one is tracking them down to give it to them. At first, the first couple of weeks, we did find that sometimes parents sign the student up to receive a test kit, but never told the student that they were signed up to receive a test kit. So there was a little bit of that going on. But what we were basically doing is just pushing out the information that we have plenty of kits. We're sitting on a good stock, even at the high school, that they have them, and that students just need to, stop by and pick them up if they would like one. So I think very good participation, elementary, a little less at the middle, and a little less at the high school.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Got any feel for if there were any upticks over vacation week or, just numbers coming back? Do we?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, we were reporting like the 2 weeks. So no, I didn't see any major trends, and that is
I
something.
just know
that-
numbers in general are up,
No, they are. We're not honestly seeing it here, which is good. I mean, we'll get another level of data this Thursday, which will be like a true 1 week count. I think that'll be a little bit more telling. But I do look at the dashboard daily. I'm not seeing any significant jumps, or even, I always look like individual schools, like, do we have, 5 or 6 or 8 cases in a particular school or grade level to kind of dig into a little bit. I'm not seeing that. It's a little bit more sporadic still. I mean, we get cases that pop here and there, but nothing like coming back after the Christmas holidays.
All right, any
All right,
other questions?
Any other questions?
Great. All right, moving on to our personnel report.
Yep. Last item for me of the evening is our March personnel report. Let me just pull that up real quick. I'm sorry. So again, this just details, we don't have too much activity in March. We're really getting into our hiring season now, but just lists a few new hires that we have in the district and their assignments, and a couple of resignations. We didn't have any retirements or assignment changes this particular month. But again, it just gives you a sense of what's transpiring personnel-wise within the district. And so this is your March report. And again, over the next couple of months, as we do our hiring, you're going to start to see more and more names appearing.
Thank you.
you probably told us, how many retirees this year? Like, expected retirees?
I want to say 12, but is it
12, okay.
13?
I think think it's 12.
12 or 13. Yeah, it's about a dozen or so. And we're fairly deep into the hiring phase. We already have recommendations for hire coming. So we've had positions posted and interview panels. There was actually a lot of work done over April vacation, screening candidates and doing the whole process. So we're ahead of the game with regard to that. I think hopefully we'll be in very good shape before the end of the school year.
Do we have any type of retirement celebration planned for this year's retirees as well as people who may have retired over the last couple of years, but we couldn't do anything?
Yeah, we will. I mean, we're in conversations with the union about that because it's usually like a joint venture.
Right.
We'll do an end-of-the-year retirement party. And I did talk to Lauren, the union president, and we're going to try to recognize people who've retired the last 2 years because we really didn't have the opportunity to have a retirement party for them. So as soon as we know like dates and times and whatnot, we'll communicate that to you. But we will be doing something to honor the retirees this year.
Great. Any other questions?
How's it going on the HR role for that position, the higher level position?
Yeah, we actually, we've been recruiting, so we've been advertising in multiple venues. We had our weekly meeting today with our different central office admin, and the posting officially closes on Friday.
Okay.
So we're going to be taking a look later on this week at the applicants that have come in so far. And then over the course of the next 2 weeks, setting up some initial interviews and seeing what we have for a pool. I honestly haven't looked at the applicant pool since the break, but we'll be doing so at the end of the week. Sometimes people wait to the very last second to apply, so the posting closes Friday.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other questions? All right, do we have any liaison reports? None? Yes?
With Chelmsford High School, a group of parents have gotten together to help spearhead the after-prom breakfast. There was a meeting last Thursday, a Zoom meeting last Thursday, and there were, I think, 5 parents involved. And Maria is involved in the committee, so she can speak more to the progress of the committee than I
You
can.
want me to do that?
If you would,
Okay,
please.
So, first of all, really heartening and wonderful that people want the after prom to happen this year. We sent out we requested that Principal Murray to his office send out a school-wide request for volunteers to work during the night because although many of us senior parents are there wanting to have this happen, we realize I don't think any of our children really want to see us there during the night. So, so we reached out, and within 2 hours, there were 11 volunteers. Okay, for the night work, and this is not parents in our class level. So that was really wonderful. I don't know what the number is at right now. There is a very good committee that has a lot of folks involved, set up, and our next thing now will be to go out with donations list, specific times for volunteering list. It's going to be going out and then reaching out to the senior class and seeing what's happening. When is the prom? What's your theme? All of that stuff and having some fun with it.
Do we have a date for the prom?
I don't think we have a theme. I think it's just.
Davenport,
No, it's actually,
the 31st, right?
Yeah, it's at Davenport. I don't know what the theme is.
Yeah, I don't think we really have a theme. I think, at least for decoration wise, I think we're just doing like black, gold, and silver. I don't think there's anything.
Okay.
Guys, gotta.
That helps.
We'll reach out and try to see if there's any other information in there a little bit. But we were very glad to hear that and that parents truly, truly would like it. As one parent said to me, we would like to see them have fun in a safe environment. And coming back after these 2 years, nobody's thrown an after prom. And so we also hope to be able to leave this year knowing that we've got parents who participated in it and might want to carry it on into the following year.
All right, great, thank you.
So thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up. I appreciate it. And I know parents
Dennis?
will.
Follow up to the superintendent, graduation, inside, outside this year, we're going back inside to.
Going back inside.
Okay.
So we're at Songus Arena,
Oh, that's coming.
indoors. Let me find the date for you.
Fourth.
The 4th? Yep, Saturday, June 4th, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So no sitting out in the sun.
No sitting out in the sun, no air conditioning will be pumping, it'll be nice and cool.
You guys
Just talking about you.
had it covering last year in the sun.
And I still got hot.
Yeah. Goes so fast.
But no, we're gonna go back into it. It's just, it's a more controlled environment, and we don't have to deal with the weather elements and things like that. So it's Saturday, June 4th at 4, and we're back at the Saugus.
All right, anything else? All right, do we have any action items or new items for our next agenda? We have a very quick turnaround. We're going to be back here next Tuesday.
Next week?
Yep. There are a couple things, just an action item. We don't typically do this, but I do want to mention that the deadline for submitting resolutions to be reviewed and voted on at the MASC annual meeting is June 1st, which is actually a month earlier than what they typically request. We also need to pick a delegate for the annual meeting on 11/2. We have to do that by the end of October, so just keep that in mind. And this year's joint conference is from November 2nd to November 5th. The thing that's a little bit different is the annual meeting is actually on that first day, which is typically it's been later. So just keep that in mind. And then also there will be an MASC Learning Lunch on ESSER Planning and Guidance on May 6th from 12 to 1 if anybody's interested. All right. All right, we are now to the second public input part of our meeting, and there being none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Really try to take my phone away and